It's funny, I looked up and it was
Okay, I'm going to call the April 15th, 2025 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District to order. We have a quorum, and we're called to order. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to make any adjustments to the agenda? Meredith?
I'd like to add a Lakeview study update to unfinished business.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Next item is the approval of the March 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Would anybody like to suggest any adjustments to those minutes? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the March 18th meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Public comments. So at each of our meetings, we reserve 15 minutes for members of the public to come and talk to us about items that are not on the agenda. And would anybody like to take advantage of that 15 minutes? Okay, we'll move on. New business. First item is 2025 buoy placement map. So in your packet, there's a map that shows where we intend to put out buoys for the 2025 boating season. And yeah, do we typically make a motion to approve this?
You can.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll get us started. I'll make a motion to approve the buoy location map.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Ramsey County, the 2025 Ramsey County Law Enforcement Services Supplemental Contract. That's also in your packet. And just as a bit of a summary, the Sheriff's Department's providing 10 additional hours of targeted enforcement in Commercial Bay, and a total of 280 hours for the season, and a not-to-exceed cost of $12,000. I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. Any discussion? Mark?
Is this a increase or decrease from prior years?
It's down 2,000 from last year's budget. It's 14,000 last year.
Oh, and Mark, you want to? Yeah.
And an increase and decrease in service, or just the cost of the service?
The cost went down, and service should remain the same.
Okay.
If you recall, there was a staffing shortage, so the actual cost, not what was budgeted and contracted for, was only 9,000. Sherry?
9,000 some, 700, I think. Yeah.
So this kind of splits the baby in terms of cost, just to take into account the fact that they might be short-staffed again. So.
Could be a reduction in service level.
It could be, just like it was last year. Okay. I think I mentioned this to the group last month. The sergeant in charge of Water Patrol has a deputy coming back from a military leave, and so that's at least one regular officer that'll be back and available that was not available last year.
Chris?
And this 10 additional hours, it says like they're there to do the slip counts of the links. I think all they did last year was really take a picture, right? They did their own drone pictures on top of yours.
Yeah, the targeted patrol.
Like they're not like doing any policing. They just, for whatever they did for that, was take a picture, right?
Yeah, the request from the district was count boats, right, and take pictures. So that's 2 targeted patrols in Commercial Bay targeting the actual conditions of our permit. That's how we characterize it.
Yeah, and I don't even think they counted last year either.
Come again?
They didn't count last. The hard thing with them is like they don't even know what's like approved, like in the sense of they don't know what to count. So it's
Right,
like,
and that was because it was a first-year effort. We did get pictures, and I'm not even sure we got the second round of pictures.
Yeah.
And so Mike apologized for that, I think, to the group, but that'll be changed this year, of course. And we've told them that we want boat counts. We don't necessarily have to tell them what they're counting against, but the secret here is to have a report from law enforcement actually being the eyes and ears, instead of essentially the board coming out there and sort of being their own witness. So it's better from an evidentiary perspective to have a police report saying, here's what we saw, here's what we counted, and so that's why we're doing that.
yeah, I think we got to educate them then what they're counting and what they're measuring and where.
Yeah, we'll get there. Like I said, last
Okay.
year was a little difficult for Mike just because he just was one uniformed officer short. And so that's why we ended up with, I think the second drone set didn't come around until after essentially the season was over, so it didn't do us much good in the second half of the season.
Susie?
Do we want to set up dates that they're going to do that on?
Ken?
You know, like, so we don't get to the end of the season when half the boats are gone?
And I'll
So,
take that back if you guys want to kick around ideal dates. You know, I was doing it before, so I tried to get out sometime, you know, before July 4th, you know, when everyone's got their boats in. And then later in the season, obviously sometime in mid to late August is a good time to go out there.
Yeah.
So if you guys tell me, I will go back to the sergeant and tell him this is what you expect for those patrols. I have no problem doing that.
And they do mention in the agreement that 10 hours per month during the months of May through August. So they should complete all that work before the end of August.
Yes. So
Per the
if
agreement.
you've got dates in mind, let me know and I will tell them. So,
Okay?
That's per month, 10.
You know, personally, I don't have any particular dates. Does anybody have any input that they want to offer to Alan, or do we want to think about that? And if you have ideas, bring
I
it to the
was-
May meeting, or?
I was thinking June 15th and August 15th. I mean, by June 15th, most people have their boats in. August 15th is about the time that some people are starting to think about getting theirs out.
So in addition to sometime in May and sometime in July, we would ask them to do it specifically on June 15th and on August 15th, is what you're suggesting?
I would give them the week of, because you never know what the weather's going to be like.
Well, that's true.
Second week of,
suggest, since June's kind of, most folks want their boats in by then, especially in Commercial Bay, if they're paying for them. We might want to have counts and pictures into the board, we'll say before, in this case, this year, Friday the 13th. That way we'll have that data for digestion at the board meeting the next week. That make sense?
Okay. And do we want to just make that general stipulation that we want the counts by the Friday before our board meeting, or do we care about that? What's the board think?
And as Susie said, oddly, the 15th does fall on the Friday before the board meeting in August. So June 13th and August 15th, pictures and reports.
Chris?
I'm back to the total hours spent on this. So if we survived without them last year, and it cost $2,000 for the summer for them to do these counts, because that's what it ends up being. It's about $50 an hour, right? 10 hours a month for 4 months, that's $2,000. Is that worth it?
Well, remember, they're billing this, these are just targeted patrols, so we still get the total number of hours.
No. This is specifically 10 hours a month for this task, right?
That's what they say, but we don't know if they're going to have staff for that. That's why the actual bills came in almost, $4,000 to $5,000 less, because they just didn't spend the time. So we got invoiced for what their actual time was that they were spending.
Sure, but then I'm back to my comment of, if we survived without it,
Yeah, you did.
like, is it worth the $2,000?
This is why the contract's here. If you guys want to say spend a couple of hours doing a boat count.
I mean, I would rather have them spend here, and if it's a safety thing, like here, I'd rather have them patrol the lake than do counts if it's $2,000, right?
Yeah, so I guess my assumption is that what they're telling us is they'll put in up to 10 hours per month for targeted services. And if the drone flight and the on-the-ground count, if those take 5 hours,
That's all they charge, yeah.
then, well, right, then the other 5 hours would go into general patrol, up to a total of 280. 280 includes the hours for Commercial Bay.
And you don't pay a differential for patrol, so this is what we'll spend.
Oh,
If you want to target more generally and say, well, it shouldn't take you more than 3 hours to do that Commercial Bay job, you can certainly suggest that, but I would say leave it up to the sheriffs.
Yeah.
That's fine. Let them take pictures.
Okay, so we're back to the identification of specific times that we would like them to look at Commercial Bay. And do we want to leave it at the June 13th, August 15th, and leave May and July open to the Water Patrol, or what's the board's preference?
I think we just need the 2 checks, May and August as,
June and August?
or June and August as suggested.
Okay.
I think that's good, because when I've gone out in June and then in July, the needle doesn't move very much. If you're out in mid-June, you're probably there until the end of the season, at least in Commercial Bay.
Okay, so I'm going to amend my motion. I think I made the motion.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to amend my motion to add, in addition to approval of the contract, the agreement, a request to provide Commercial Bay service by June 13th so that we have the information for our June meeting, and the August Commercial Bay services by August 15th so that we have the information by our August meeting. And the second?
Second.
Okay, so did you second it? Who?
We both did.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, well, do the 2 seconds. Are you okay with the amendment to the motion? Okay, so any further discussion? And do you have that motion adequately, Sherry?
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So that passes.
I'll have that added to the contract then as a performance standard.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Shadow Gay Condominium Association 2025 non-commercial multi-user dock permit, and that is in your packet. And Mark or Chris, would one of you want to walk us through this?
Yeah. So when we initially got the packet, the original diagram that we got, really, it caused more questions, and we needed to define more of the ADUA. We wanted to get some of the, lengths and widths so to match a lot of the permits that we've been dealing with over the past couple of years to get it right. So we got with Shadowgate, got a new diagram, and as we dug into the diagram and really looked at where the dock was, the length went over 300 feet, and the dock has been over 300 feet. I think the diagram's been outdated for a few years. So now the diagram also is representing what the true length of the dock is. And with that, it made it, over, so we had to do we're doing a variance. So there's confusion, I think, with all of it in the sense of how to process this. So my guidance was do the permit, get the diagram right, and then also put a variance in for the length of the dock. It's the same. If you go and look at Google Earth, it's the same. It's basically the same format or same length as last year. So if there's concerns, I know in the LUC a concern came from the city that they thought they'd have to put the firework boat out. It's the same length as what it was last year. So if you even go through and measure it on Google Earth, I think Sherry had it at 416, and we're at 415. So, or right on it. So that's really the summary of it. So we worked with Shadowgate to get them a better diagram, put all the slips there, get the measurements right, and really define where the ADUA and the length of the dock and where it's at.
Okay, so the permit application's in front of us, and let's just have some discussion about it, and then we're going to have a public hearing in just a moment. So it doesn't seem like it's an application that we can approve because it exceeds our requirements. And so it's unclear to me how to proceed with the actual application, not talking about the variance application, but the actual application. And Alan, do you have any guidance for us, or do you want me to just muddle through this?
It's up to your maximum, and then treat the excess in your variance,
Okay, so,
what they're asking for.
yeah, true. And so as far as the application goes, we wouldn't actually approve this application. We would approve it contingent on meeting our requirements of staying within 300 feet.
Right.
And then we will go through that process, and then we'll get to the public hearing and decide on the variance.
You can approve only up to a certain point on a permit. So I think that would be the motion, like what we see, like the placement, like everything else, but out to 300, and that's what they get.
Okay. Well, I'll try it. So I'll make a motion to approve the Shadowgate permit application up to a total of 11 slips and out to a length of 300 feet from the ordinary high water level.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve in that way. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. There's no discussion. So all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that passes. Okay, let's see. All right, so we're past 7:10, so we're okay to start the public hearing. And there are actually two items that we're going to be discussing during the public hearing. The first one is Shadowgate, and we just had some discussion about that. Basically, they're requesting a variance to extend out, I think is it 416 feet from the ordinary high water level. So that's something that we'll consider after the public hearing. Once we take comments in the public hearing, we'll consider that. And then on tallies, they're requesting a variance to extend out an additional 30 feet from the ordinary high water level, so from 300 out to 330 feet, with the same number of slips that were approved previously in their permit application. I have that all right? Okay. So that's the setup, and I am going to open the public hearing.
And just as a matter of sort of flow control and for purposes of the minutes, two public hearings. First one is for Shadowgate, and so you've set it up, but we should then close that one and then open a separate one for tallies.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And it appears the tallies may not take long. Okay, so I am going to open the public hearing for the Shadowgate variance request. And would anyone from the public like to make any comments on this during our public hearing? Okay, so I'm going to ask a second time, would anybody like to make comments during our public hearing? And then a third time, would anybody like to make comments during our public hearing? Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing on Shadowgate. And I am going to open the public hearing for tallies. And would anyone like to make comments during our public hearing on tallies? Would anyone like to make comments at our public hearing regarding the variance request from tallies? And would anyone like to make comments at our public hearing for the variance request for tallies? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing for tallies. Okay. Yeah, you picked the wrong night to be the only one here, I guess. Okay, so that closes the public hearings. And this is not under the Lake Utilization Committee. And so I guess we'll go right into the approval of the variances.
Yeah, I would, one at a time.
Okay, so let's start with the Shadow Gay variance request. Would anyone want to make a motion to approve the variance, or?
I make a motion to approve the variance to 416 feet of dock length from ordinary high water level.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance for Shadow Gay to 416 feet. Any discussion? Susie? Oh, sorry.
I was just wondering why it needs to be 416. That seems really excessive. I mean, the marinas in Commercial Bay only go to 330, and there's only 11 slips for a Shadow Gay.
Water level isn't, they're barely at 4 feet at 400 feet out.
It just seems like it's a
It's just a
very
shallow-
shallow part of the lake right there.
That's why all the people anchor their boats and stand there and drink beer in that area, because it's shallow.
Really, that 4 feet is right at that drop off there. So if you ever go swim at Ramsey Beach, there's always been that drop off that goes off, and that's the start of it. Otherwise, it's super shallow and flat.
Okay.
Their application said it was 18 inches at
Imagine some
300.
of these slips on the main dock, they're going to have some problems too at the end of the year.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Meredith?
Just a question. Cherry, what was the comment you received again?
Oh.
The comment was that if it was going to extend out longer, that the boats would have to be pushed farther back. However, this dock probably has been at 400 feet for 6 years or however long. We're just now finding out about it. So the city will not have to lose boats in the area or push their barge back.
They were worried about the fireworks.
Fireworks
boat.
barge.
For the fireworks, yeah.
Since the dock's the same thing, I think they just have to understand it's not pushing them out another 150 feet. Or,
Yeah, I understood it, but I just wanted to make sure it was
got it.
in there.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. So now we'll move to Tally's variance request. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve that variance request?
I'd like to make the motion to extend the Tally's dock 30 feet to 330 feet.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Tally's variance request to go out to 330 feet from the ordinary high water level. Any discussion?
I just want to clarify that this is the same as they did last year, and all they do is extend the ramp going from the restaurant to the docks 30 feet. Everything else stays the same.
Okay, any further discussion? Meredith?
That's still the same number of slips.
Yep.
64 or?
Yeah, you'd have whatever we approved.
It's in the reference packet.
They're not asking for any more boats. They're not asking for any more dock slips. They're just literally adding 30 feet of ramp to get to the docks, to that first tee.
$64.
64.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
And one, just going forward, then I take it, like, if we get in these situations, approve as far as we can for the permit, and then do the variance after the fact.
Seems that way, yep.
We'll just do that. Okay.
Okay, so we are on to item 8 on our agenda, unfinished business, the resolution for proposed bylaw amendment to Section 3 meetings. So you'll recall that we had a first reading of this bylaw change at our March meeting. And basically the change is to clarify the existing bylaw states that our meetings will occur at 7:30, and this change to the bylaw will change that to 7 p.m., which is when we meet. Is that about it? Do we need to do any more with that?
Yeah, Chair and Board, this is just part of the bylaws, so it's not an ordinance or anything like that. So it's just a resolution changing our internal, basically, controls. So because we had to bring it back a second time just because of a notice question, or I shouldn't say question, but a policy within the bylaws saying about how they can be changed, it's now basically here. So there won't be a second or third reading after this. It's just a resolution.
Okay, and we approve the resolution? I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So that passes. The constituent complaints form and process, Meredith?
Month this has been in your packet. We did make a few changes, or Sherry made the changes. We added a note from Alan at the top about keeping confidentiality, and sometimes we might need to break that in some instances where we would need to know who the complainant is, but we are doing this in an effort to standardize and track complaints and also keep better confidentiality. Does anyone have any comments on the new form, concerns?
Just for me, just to understand, under nature of the complaint, what are some suggestions when you're asking, does this issue affect behavior on the land? What does that mean?
I think that was directed at me, Mr. Chair, but
Sorry.
the camera and the audience don't necessarily know that. May I respond?
Yeah, please do.
All right, I put that in there just because these complaints are going to come from all over the place, and it's important to know whether or not they actually see this as a complaint on land, because we won't necessarily get a phone call, right? This is going to be sent in, and if they circle that, then essentially we know that there's probably not a lot of jurisdiction that we're going to have, right? Take the dog park, for instance. I mean, our only issue was really a fence that went into the water, right? So every other complaint really had more to do with what was going on land. And over the years, we've seen a lot of those things where people don't like something on someone's beach or something like that. So if that's circled, then Sherry can, before passing it on to the appropriate group, right, can just simply say, well, you can go to the city or the township or whoever the appropriate authority is, not putting it in front of the board, basically, and just handle it administratively. That's why I put it there. I'm not tied to it, but that's why I did that, just to kind of winnow out the ones that are not really germane to you guys.
I'll make a motion to approve the complaint form.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to approve the complaint form. Now, let's have some discussion. Any further discussion, Mike?
This is for the complaint one, right? Yeah. I'm following. I noticed that it goes to the Lake Utilization Committee for resolution, which I want to thank them for taking that on.
Well, if there's anything about lake quality, we'll send it on to you.
So is that, yeah, I see that. That's under the guidance.
I'm not complaining, I'm just
Guidance for the board members.
thanking them for taking
Okay,
that on.
Got it. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this. There's no further discussion, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that passes. Thanks to Meredith and Sherry for putting effort into.
And Alan.
And Alan, thank you, Alan, for putting effort into getting us to this point. Okay, so next item is lake use study update. Meredith?
Okay, just wanted to provide you all with an update. We have, Mark and Sherry and I have reviewed the second draft from Steve McComas, and we have comments back to him today. We expect to release the draft report to the whole board after this round of comments. It seems like it's nearly there, so I'm hoping to have it to Sherry for your inboxes in advance of the board packet, because it is kind of dense, and I think you'd benefit from having longer than a week to read through it. Any questions?
So I guess it's dependent on when we get the updated report from Blue Water Science.
Correct.
So it could be on the May agenda, but it could also maybe be on the June agenda, depending on that response time.
That's true.
Okay, any other questions for Meredith? Oh, Alan?
It's not a question, but I thought the rest of the board, if you didn't see it, should at least acknowledge the people who are reviewing this, because Mr. McComas came out and specifically said that thanks to the rigorous review, you're going to end up with a lot better product. So I think a round of thanks should go to the folks that are really fly-specking this.
Yeah, thank you, Meredith.
I've never seen a contractor or a jobber come back and say, you're doing so good, you're going to get a better product. So that's a pretty big deal,
Yeah, so thank you, three.
especially for Mr. McComas.
Okay, okay, thank you, Meredith. So we're on to reports and action items, executive committee report. Executive committee did meet. We talked about the banking changes, and those are in process and moving along as we had expected. We also talked about Sherry is creating a new YouTube platform for our meeting videos, because something happened over at the other SCC, and so that resulted in us having to go through this process of setting up a YouTube platform to host our videos of our meetings. Thank you, Sherry. Starry Stonewort response plan, we talked about that. Sherry is in the process of conforming a couple of documents to bring before the board. Complaints, concerns document, we talked about that. The bylaw change, which we've just gone through those. The permit application documents, we talked about those, and the LUC has taken a first go at those. Thank you, LUC. The Ordinance 5 change, Alan provided draft modifications to Ordinance 5 for us, and so we discussed that a bit. Policy to clarify payment for all permitted slips. That's something that we'll try to get incorporated into the new application forms. The AIS survey and treatment, Mike talked about that a little bit, and the bid from Blue Water Science, which we'll get to in just a little bit here. And then the Lake Hughes study, that's ongoing, and you just heard an update on that. And then treasurer's items, we talked about the 4M fund update and the draft budget a little bit. Any questions about any of that? Okay. Oh, yes, thank you. And then we also talked about having a strategic planning session, which, generally the idea would be to get as many people as that are interested together, just to brainstorm about what we would like to see the board activities to look like going forward. And if there are things the board can or should be doing, and try to get a sense of, how we can improve the way the board functions and the activities that the board takes on. So expect more on that later. Is that fair? Okay. Okay. So that's the executive committee report. Now we'll move on to the Lake Quality Committee. Mike?
Lake Quality Committee, the lake level today is 922.6. At this time it was 922.2. Last month it was 922.4. So 922.6 is up about 6 inches, 5 to 6 inches higher than last year at this time. Water temperature is 45 degrees. It's very chilly, crisp, and cold. Any questions on that so far? Okay. Next is the aquatic invasive species monitoring and treatment plan. We're working on a treatment plan, as mentioned. Sherry has put together some things, and we're going to fine-tune it, have it for you next month. Part of it will be talking about maybe allocating some money in case we find starry stonewort and other things like that. So to get down to the particular, and one of the beginning parts of the plan is the Blue Water Science bid that was handed out at the meeting, which I assume you have. Now, I'll make it easy. The first part, Eurasian Water milfoil, down to the subtotal where it's $3,650. That's the same as it's been over the years. It's just the same. He comes in, does it, does a good job at it. We get the maps, the shape files ready for the applicator. He comes back with a printout and talks to us about it and everything else. So the only thing new is the starry stonewort searches. And he's going to do 4 of them over the summer. The first one is when we do the Eurasian Water milfoil survey, so it's only like 2 1/4. The next one, he comes back after the treatment. He comes back in July this year. And so since he's already out looking to see how the Eurasian Water milfoil treatment went, he'll do the next starry stonewort search. And these are done at the 3 launch sites. And there's information that'll be in the management plan. You'll see that of the 31 lakes infested with starry stonewort, 29 of them were found at the boat launches, it was the first place they found it. So that's definitely our kind of the line of defense that we want to defend. The next 2 searches, 3rd and 4th searches, come out just to search, and it's a little bit more, no other reason to come out. And then he'll put together a report, much like the milfoil report, at the end of the summer. So we'll have a pretty complete tracking way of doing it, along with a lot of other things that will be in our plan that we'll talk about next month. But I would like to get the bid approved so we can go forward with that and have no delays. Like I mentioned, we're going to next month talk about a little allocation for starry stonewort, and also I'll try to have an applicator's bid at that time too. So there's a lot of things going on right now. Any questions on the bid at all? Nothing? I'll make a motion that we approve the Blue Water Science bid for both Eurasian Water milfoil and starry stonewort searches and follow-up for the amount of $5,500.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposal from Blue Water Science. Any discussion? Chris?
We've done this before? Or
The
not the
milfoil we've done
stonewort,
before.
but
We
like
have
the
not done
milfoil.
we haven't done any starry stonewort.
But the milfoil, we've done that check before.
Yeah.
But the check, we've done that.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
All right.
Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that passes.
That's it.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next, Lake Utilization Committee, but there's nothing to report there, so we'll move on to the Lake Education Committee. Scott.
Yeah. We got together, had a discussion, and made assignments for putting our 4-page advertising insert in the Laker. That'll be coming out around Memorial Day, I guess. And we have we decided on an internal date that we would get rough drafts into Sherry. She'll be putting it together. We think we have enough material. We will include something on starry stonewort and several other topics. So that's coming along. We are going to have a summertime lake cleanup again. Part of Manitou Days, it was approved this past week, and by the Manitou Days committee. And we are working on one of the ideas we're throwing around, and I wanted to get any kind of feedback the board has. The idea came up of, well, we could put signage at the 3 boat launches, which would require the city and the county to agree to put them up. I went out there and looked at the signage. There's already a lot of signage on all kinds of stuff. So the question is, do we want to put something specifically about starry stormwort? Yeah, she's putting up, that's a picture I took. That's Ramsey County Beach. And this is Matoska Beach. And that's the VFW. And you can see some of our signs are already there. And try to pull this way. So there's a couple ways we could do this. Just looking at the pictures, if we wanted to add a sign, a horizontal one might work better. There's a couple different approaches there. The more wordy one with a little stop sign points out that, yeah, well, you've got to clean and drain your trailers and boats. Though that is said on some of these other signs too, right? So, but the idea is that we want people to be aware of what this looks like. And we can put a QR code there that would jump to a Starry Stormwort page that we don't yet have. I mean, we can throw something together based on what we're doing for the Laker. So I'll just throw it out there. Is it worth contacting the, because it would be, we'd be producing just like 3 signs. It would, I don't think we would need it any other place besides the 3 boat launches, because that seems to be the big entry point. I mean, you could make more and put it in other marina situations. But any comments on that?
I like the idea of making the public more aware of what it looks like and at the boat launch and at the boat launches, and you know, maybe it helps get others to be looking out for it. So it seems like there's benefit that way. Anybody else have comments? Mike?
There's a lot of signs there. You kind of look at it and say, what's going on? But picture is worth 1,000 words. You can see that, what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, and everything's QR codes now anyways. You order your meals with them at restaurants now, so everybody's used to them. And I think it offers a lot more information than you can ever put on a sign.
Yeah. The horizontal one I put together doesn't mention the cleaning and draining. It just says it's not in our lake yet. Early detection can help. Learn more would be like the minimal amount of information. So learn more. You see a QR code. You know, maybe I mean, if you can see the picture, I mean, it's really hard to picture Starry Stormwort because the stars are really, really small. And the rest is just sort of a weedy mat.
So if nobody's strongly opposed to it, it seems like it would be good to take the next step and contact the people that we would need approval from in order to see if they would even allow us to put up a sign. So how best for us to go about that?
Probably be Ramsey County,
Sure.
and then city.
It'd be like Rick Juba or somebody.
Okay, well, does anybody want to take on that effort of contacting those folks and seeing what they say?
I'll be happy to, since I have to talk to the county anyway. I'll find out from the sergeant who regulates that board. I'm guessing that it's Lakes and Trails.
Okay, and so that's the county. How about the city?
Depending on what the county says, I'll go to the city.
Okay.
So if
All right.
one does, then I would suspect the other will.
Is everyone okay with that approach?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
have
we
an
won't
idea.
take any action to make signs. We'll just see what, it's
Right.
up to them really whether they want to add signage to all their other signs.
Should I use both or one or the other? Because I'm sure they're going to want to say, what are we talking about? So there's 2 options there.
There's 2 options.
I like the one with the stop sign personally. but it'd be nice to see a zoom instead of just someone's thumb with a piece of sand on it. I don't know if we can zoom in on that and make it a little bit more obvious, but I'm not a voting member. But it'd be nice to show them what it is that we're actually going
We
to be
could
putting.
do something like that horizontal, just looking at the spaces. When my wife and I went out and looked at them, my wife says, well, I think you need a horizontal sign. Otherwise, it's not going to fit.
It's up to you guys, but I mean, I want to be able to
Yeah,
show folks what
it could go either way.
Yeah, I think what I would suggest is to show them both, let them know that if they have input on the content of the sign, we're open to that, and that the board still hasn't finalized what the sign would look like and the information it would contain, but these are some general examples that we've come up with, just to give them an idea.
And I'll let you know.
All right. Okay. Anything else, Scott?
No, that's it. We could pass it over to Meredith for social media.
Meredith?
Okay, I'll just mention our Manitou Days cleanup. We're approved for June 28th. So mark your calendars if you want to join us. On our social media this month, I'm going to get our buoy map up with a lake level and temperature. I still haven't gotten the ordinance change on water appropriation up, so I will do that. I make a post on Earth Day to talk to people about what they could do to protect the lake. I need to start putting up something about Starry Stonewort every month throughout the entire summer. There's a shoreline planting seminar by Rice Creek Watershed District at Lions Park next month, so I'm going to put something up about that in case people are interested. And I'm happy to put anything else up that anyone would like.
I think you can't say enough about plastics.
Sure. And the shoreline planting, did you say that's Rice Creek that's coordinating that?
Correct.
And do you have a date on that?
I think it's May 20th. I'll find it for you. It's in my email.
I think I did send it to everybody.
Okay. Well, I can just look at my emails then. Okay. Okay.
I'll let you know when I find it.
Yeah, that sounds good. Any questions for either Scott or Meredith? Okay. Moving on. Treasurer's reports. Mike?
A treasurer's report you have in your package of information, and if you look at it, look up in the left-hand corner, the very first box, it says Royal Credit Union account, 0.35%. Next month, that's going to read 4.25%. And hopefully, very soon after, you'll see another box that's going to say 4M account, and that's going to say 4.3%. And we will be taking funds, I'll talk about it when I get to the budget, be put into that fund. Rest of the treasurer's report, we have a lot of income, a lot of stuff going on. And now for the outgo. I would like to make a motion that we approve debit card purchase 2025-7 and checks 5015 through 5020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the debit card purchase and the checks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay, next is the workman's comp, and they have like a minimum premium of $200. We don't even get up to that. Sherry, do we get a refund at any time on that?
Well, we've only had it 1 year.
Okay.
You're thinking about the liability insurance for us, and we got a $47 refund, I think it was last month, on the treasurer's report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, we have to have workman's comp. And so I will make a motion that we approve through League of Cities the deposit premium of $200 for workman's comp.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the workers' comp. Any discussion? And I'll start. Mike, where's the 200? I'm missing that. Perfect.
If you go to the second page, I believe, we're choosing the first option.
Okay,
Same as last year.
okay. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Okay.
that passes.
Next is the budget. And if you want to grab that, we'll go through it.
And that's the very end of the packet.
Okay, so there's going to be some changes, but we'll just go through the whole thing. License unit fees, $2,000. Application fees, $2,000. License unit fees, $73,422. Thank you, Sherry, for putting all these numbers together. Interest income is going to go up. We have $880 there, but I've changed it to $1,700, and it'll still be more than that, but that's a conservative look till we get fully invested. So that changes the fees and interest total, to $77,322. That's our income. Now we'll go expenses. So the first one is water patrol costs, and I had a lower number in there because we hadn't been spending that much. We'd been up to $14,000 and never reaching it. Alan talked with people at the Sheriff's Department, and he came back and said $12,000 was a realistic figure. So we went with $12,000. Now that we have a bid on some Starry Stonewort surveying, that would be line 6031. We will add in there $1,900. Remember, this is for 2026, $1,900. And the next line down is Eurasian water milfoil treatment, $32,000. It was $29,000 something last year. It's always kind of a shell game to see how it comes up with how much milfoil we find, but we better have enough money. So $32,000 stays there. The next line, Eurasian water milfoil plant survey, I have $5,000 in there. I'm going to reduce that to $3,850. Okay, then we go down to Phragmites, and that's been costing us about $1,000 a year, $900 and something. So I left it at $1,000. Public information, talked to Scott, and he felt $3,600 was adequate.
Yeah.
Still is? Yeah, okay. Lake miscellaneous management, those are the buoys going in and out. They're $250 in, $250 out, and a couple $100. I've already had to replace chain on one of them. A couple $100 for buoys. So that's $700. Swimmer's Itch, which I'll ask for the letter next month. It runs between $700 and $800, so I've got $750 in there. Excuse me. We're escrowing for a future lake management plan. We did $10,000 last year, and we'll do $10,000 in 2026. Now we go to the next page. And administration services, 1,000 hours at $30 an hour, $30,000. Unemployment, $30. IRS fees, just a simple 7.65% on payroll, $2,295. Legal services at $1,000 a month, $12,000. Insurance premiums, workers' comp comes out of that, but also the big liability with League of Cities, that's $1,900. Miscellaneous professional services, our payroll processing is $252 a month, which is, I've got that total. I thought it was on that sheet, but it's not. $252 a month, which comes to $3,034. The other expense in that is our bookkeeping with Charisse Letourneau, and that's $2 $2,000. It comes in just under that, but $2,000. It might go up, come in 2026. And then the audit, we're escrowing for our audit, which we will be auditing this year, 2025, during 2026. So that escrows, we escrowed it last year too, so that'll give us a total escrow to pay for the audit at $5,000. Let's see. Okay, office rent is next, and we got a rent agreement and an increase in rent from the city of White Bear. We went from $100 to $105. And next year, it'll be $110 for 2026. So that's $1,323. So that's our rent figure. Software, we get updates, rent at $2.15 a month. That might go up a penny or two. It didn't go up much this last year. So we have $30 there. Stationery supplies, $150. Copy costs, $100. Postage costs, $500. Postage has gone up, went up, and it might go up again. Telephone costs, based on what we've been using, looks like it's going to be $675. No office furniture, nothing. Membership seminars, that's League of Cities, Minnesota Lakes and Rivers, et cetera, $2,500. Miscellaneous operating expenses would be like board nameplates for Sherry and other, if we have any new members. If we all stay here, we won't have to spend any money, $100. And then cable cast meeting is $50 a month, $600. So that grand total is $125,803, which at this point, unless there's changes, it would be $48,481 that we would assess the communities. Last year we assessed them, of course, $4,531, so an increase of $2,550, practically nothing.
Can you tell us again the $48,000 number?
Pardon?
Can you tell us again the $48,000 number?
Oh, $48,481.
Okay, thank you.
There's just the difference between the 77 and the balance.
All right, thank you.
Nothing hard. So that is the budget draft. I know that you might not have studied it over too much, but now that you've got all the numbers, we really don't need to approve it this month. You can look at it and make suggestions, think about it.
Any questions at the moment, Mark?
So a couple questions on the Eurasian Water Milfoil. Does that assume we do not get the grant from the state?
We did not get the grant last year. For this year, for 2025, we did not. I will definitely apply for 2026.
But the $32,000 covers us in case we do not get the grant again in 2026. What does this budget assume? That we get the grant or do not get the grant?
Well, usually when it comes down to approving the $32,000, or when it comes down to, like, we're going to do the treatment and that I will ask for an override, an extra amount just in case. You know, we had like 33 acres last year and it came to 29,000. If we come in with 50 acres, it's going to be more. And I will ask, when we approve for the treatment, I will ask for that extra. If we had gotten a grant, we wouldn't use that extra.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I'm trying to
It's a best estimate.
not really lowball it, but conservatively look at it, hoping to get a grant, but then asking for reserves when it comes down to doing it, so it happens.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the second question is on the Starry Stonewort management. Should we find it, would we want to set up an escrow like we have for the lake management and the audit?
You're way ahead of me. So next month, when we talk about the monitoring plan in that, I will ask for some money in case we find Starry Stonewort this year.
For 2025?
For 2025.
For 2026, should we
If we
put,
don't find it,
an amount in there, assuming
Then
we
there's
might
not
find
an
it?
amount in there, then we don't
Okay.
need to treat it.
I think, so just as a big picture, you have this draft budget in front of you when this is our April meeting. And so typically at the May meeting, we'll start to firm this up. So if you have ideas like that, which I think that's maybe a good idea, but we can talk about that in May, bring those ideas to the May meeting, and we'll make adjustments to the budget based on input from board members to try to get the budget firmed up in May. And then in June, it's kind of our drop dead date that we will approve a budget at our June meeting. Okay, any additional questions on the budget at the moment?
I did think about, adding that in there, but then we don't have it right now. And if you budget for things you don't have, you're padding the budget.
Okay, good on that at the moment. Chris?
What will that overall estimated revenue be for FY or for 2026? It's 154, or is that, or am I messing that math up?
The total amount,
Once you do the cities, everything else, what you target? Or is it still 120? We'll talk later.
125,803.
125,803.
Any additional questions on the budget? Okay. Any questions for Mike in general?
ICE went out March 28th.
Say that.
White Bear Press had a contest, and they had 3 winners. Then Alan Haskins did the Bald Eagle and White Bear Ice Out, and he had over 4,000 hits on his website for it, and he had 500 entrants, and 30 people guessed March 28th.
Well, all right. Well, thanks for taking care of that, Mike. Okay, we'll move on. Board council report. Alan?
Thank you, Board and Chair. Happy Tax Day, everyone, to celebrate. As I usually do, I contacted Matt, our conservation officer, and I'll just call this kind of period shoulder season, which is what we'd call it in travel, where there's not a lot going on. Ice has come out, docks and boats are just going in, so he's got very little to report for now. Same thing is true of Mike Servatka, our sergeant at the Lakes and Trails for Ramsey. He does indicate that the plan is to get the boat installed at the dock next week. So we will have the permanent boat in place before the end of the month. That's what I have. Thanks for approving the contract. We'll make those changes, and it'll be available for anyone to see once we get a signed copy of it. So I'd stand for questions.
Any questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan. So on to announcements. Sherry, do you have anything?
Nothing, just that we have our next board meeting, May 20th.
Okay, and Meredith.
Someone had asked earlier about the shoreline maintenance workshop. It is, in fact, May 20th, right before our board meeting, so it would be tricky for any of us to attend, but it is free for people that live in Rice Creek Watershed District.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I have one, and Sherry, you correct me if I'm wrong. Ramsey County dredged at Ramsey County Beach. Are they planning to? Do we know the timing on that?
They have already dredged it. They
Okay.
should have. Yeah.
Okay, so Ramsey County dredged, and they did give us a heads up on that, which is what we requested that they do. So thank you, Ramsey County. Okay, that's it for announcements. We're at item 13 on the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.